This is Wraith from Wraith Rain. I'm an author of serialized gay romance fiction. Every week on this podcast, I'll be reading a chapter from one of my gay fantasy shifter serials called Dragon's Reign. I'll explain at the break how you can find out more about this story and others I write. So let's get to it. Chapter 10, Hidden. Valerius told himself that there was a stunning rebuke to Caden on the tip of his tongue, that he was ready to deliver it with a searing smile, that his words would silence Caden on what had happened with Raziel and would make Shioni forget any of the words that had been spoken so far, so that she wouldn't pick at him and Caden to reveal his lack of control. Even on his best day, that only might have happened. But this was not his best day. Far from it. So perhaps he should have been grateful that they drove through High Reach's arched gate at that moment, which stopped the conversation. Caden's eyes widened, and his head craned this way and that, looking at the castle and grounds, as if he had never seen them before. And then Valerius realized that Caden hadn't seen them before. He had been, until today, a normal citizen of Reach, which meant he had never seen beyond the outer walls of Valerius's castle. Somehow his wide-eyed amazement at the curved drive, the mighty gate, the soaring towers, and the hedge maze that filled the southern garden had Valerius's heart feeling heavy. Raziel was silent now as well. This silence had fallen the moment that they'd both seen the white dragon spirit who purred at them. Hardly the fierce foe who deserves to be destroyed, is it, Raziel? He'd pointed out to his dragon spirit. Raziel had merely retreated deeper into the darkness, only its red eyes flaring with fire to show it was still there. Valerius had known then that there would be no answers from his recalcitrant spirit. The castle is all lit up, Caden noted. For the celebration, Shioni explained. She turned back to Valerius. What are we going to do about the anniversary? If we had captured the white dragon shifter and the bomber, then yes, it should go on, but... Captured? Caden sputtered. I wasn't captured. I turned myself in. Wait, I didn't turn myself in because I didn't do anything wrong. I came to you to clear things up? Shioni offered helpfully. Valerius scowled at her. He is here because I wish him to be here. I came because I wanted to, Caden said. I came for my friends. You came because you had nowhere to go. I would have found you no matter where you went, Valerius growled. Caden flushed. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know why you can't see that. Shioni reached over and touched Caden's shoulder. Do not worry, Caden. Things will work out. We are just a little unnerved, which probably is nothing to compare to what you feel. Caden gave her a smile that lit up his beautiful face and had Valerius feeling more annoyed for some reason. Raziel muttered. He was certain, though he could not see the white dragon spirit, that it was purring and churring, but this time at Shioni. Caden's expression, though, clouded as they wound up the long stone drive and passed into the courtyard. Who are all those people? Valerius turned his head to see, and his heart, already heavy, changed to stone. He'd forgotten about them. Not even Shioni's words about the anniversary celebration had reminded him. The castle was packed to the gills with dignitaries, not just the President of the United States and the Premier of Canada, but as many mayors, governors, senators, and congresspeople as could fill the castle, and all of them seemed to be milling in the courtyard, waiting for his return. Even over the purr of the SUV's engines, he could hear all the dignitaries talking at once. Their faces were lit up, not only by the torches, but also by their phones as they watched the latest news reports, which were all breathless and wrong. But the moment that they saw the SUV, it was as if they were all pointer dogs. Valerius shut his eyes for a moment. He should have thought of this. But with everything happening, he had never expected Caden to just give himself up and hop in the car. Oh my, this is going to make things difficult, Shioni murmured, her forehead furrowing. Politicians are the absolute worst gossips, and they are simple. If we do not explain things correctly to them, the fear and panic may spread. We have to have a story. We have to have a way forward. We have none of that now. A ninth dragon shifter. Valerius stared at Caden hard. The young man straightened up. They will wonder what you want, Caden, what your demands are. Caden's forehead furrowed this time. My demands? We have to have a plan, at least about what we are going to say when that door opens, and we must get out and face them, Shioni broke in. Well, you aren't going to tell them about who I am, right? I mean, you're going to leave me out of it, right? Caden asked. They will wonder who you are, even if we tell them nothing, Shioni said. And it might be wise to tell them the truth in any event, so that people know things are under control. Things are not under control, Valerius thought, and all the questions they will have cannot be answered. Facing them now, before I have even truly spoken to Caden, is not wise. What? No! I don't want anyone to know who I am, Caden cried. Can't you drop me off in the back or something? Yes, that is a good idea. You and I, Caden, will both ride in the car through the garage, while Shioni gets out here and gives our guests a vague understanding that answers will be forthcoming soon, Valerius said, and turned his head so that he was looking up front. Captain Nagoye, did you hear that? Yes, my king, it shall be done, she replied back crisply. Shioni's lips held a half-amused, half-disgruntled smile. You throw me to the dogs? Dogs are nothing compared to Sphinx's powers of persuasion, he told her. Besides, you are so fond of politicians. Her eyes widened and she waved a hand through the air as if to physically hold his suggestion of love of politicians off. Why would you believe that? He smiled widely. Because you are always urging me to ask them by. No good deed or advice goes unpunished. All right, Valerius. I will face the mob while the two of you slip away. She drew near to the door, grasping the handle so she could quickly jump out. Where will you be? My quarters. There is nowhere else unoccupied. Valerius grimaced. He hated the castle being full. He loved it when there were so few people that he could pass from one wing to the next and see no one. Now there was nowhere he could go without falling over some politician or their aides or both. And now another dragon shifter will be in my rooms, he thought. All right, I will join you as soon as I can. I believe we should have the feast tonight, though, Valerius. If nothing else, because food calms people, she suggested. Fine, yes, the feast. Let it go forward, he said. She glanced between him and Caden once more. Be good, Valerius. Good? What else would I be? So many things, she smiled, and swiftly exited the vehicle, closing the door right after she stepped out to stop anyone else from seeing inside. The rising voices of the concerned politicians rose up immediately but were cut off. The SUV started again and headed towards the garage that was on the far side of the castle. Valerius was acutely aware of Caden in a new way now that Shioni was not there as a buffer. There was still Nagoye and the other claw whose name escaped him driving the SUV, but it felt like they were alone. Almost alone. They hadn't been this alone since fighting in the air. Ice, cold, kills our fire, Raziel finally muttered, the first words that had spoken in some time. Yes, but he had no choice, Raziel, Valerius responded. I didn't. You were going to cook me, Caden suddenly said, and then both of them stared at one another with open mouths. How did you? You didn't open your mouth. No, I didn't. You were speaking with Raziel, and I could hear. Again, I could hear what you were saying in your mind. Awe flooded Caden's face. The SUV stopped again as it was parked in the garage. Not wanting to speak about this in front of Nagoye or the other claw, Valerius quickly opened the door and slipped out. Caden followed after him just as quickly. The garage was well lit with white fluorescent lights, and it made the shadows stark. It caused Caden's golden skin to look as white as paper. Valerius took hold of Caden by the arm. Alarm sprang in the young man's eyes, and shame sparked in Valerius's own. So he held Caden lightly. I want you to stay close to me. Do you understand? This place is overrun by those that would profit from you, Valerius said, immediately realizing how true that was. Okay, I'll keep close. Reluctantly, Valerius let Caden go and turned towards the door into the castle itself, trusting that Caden would follow after him. The garage led into the back passages of the castle, the areas where servants could flow like water to almost all parts of the castle without being seen. His quarters, though, were the one space where they would have to go out into the open. Valerius strode down the slender stone corridors with the high arched ceilings. There were doors off to each side. They passed by the steamy heat of the kitchen. Already the staff was working to prepare for the feast since he hadn't called it off. He had hired the best chefs from around his territory, and from the delicious smells emanating from the kitchen, it had been money well spent. Doors opened ahead of them as servants hurried into the passages. Each one jumped at the sight of him and quickly crossed their arms over their chests and bowed their heads. He nodded in response, but kept moving. They wound up spiral steps up and up until Valerius was almost dizzy, as his rooms were in the tallest tower. He rarely used the stairs. He normally dove out of his window and then he transformed in the air and dropped back down onto the balcony. So the stairs annoyed him. They took time and effort and energy when he just needed to speak to Caden, to understand what this young man was to him, to them, him and Raziel. Are we almost there yet? Caden sounded rather breathless. I've really had my share of stairs today. I mean, I had to walk all the way up from the below to the mid, and that is an incredibly long way, and I'd like to be up high. Valerius answered him simply and then asked, Don't you? I don't really know. I don't feel exactly different than I did before. Actually, I'm not really fond of heights. Yet you jumped off of the drop, Valerius pointed out. But that wasn't a choice, Caden said. Of course it was, Valerius answered. Valerius glanced over his shoulder at the young man. Caden's cheeks were slightly pink from the effort of their climb, but he looked very healthy. All shifters did. The spirit changed the human body the moment it merged with the person. Caden should experience greater strength, speed, increased healing, and more. It had been so long since his own merging that it was hard to remember. Most of the shifters that were around him were older, too, not to mention that the youngest dragon shifter was Andvir, and he was millennial old. How do you feel? Valerius asked. Caden gave him a rather plucky smile as he answered, Winded? Hungry? Too? I didn't get my sandwich earlier. The sandwich comment made no sense, but it appeared to please Caden no end. Not wanting to hear what was likely a touching, tender story about lunch meat, Valerius simply said, I will have food brought to my rooms. I mean, thanks. But Caden frowned as if the offer of food was suspicious. What is it? Valerius asked sharply. Caden blinked and reared back a little, which had him wishing he had spoken more gently. But then Caden said, I'm just surprised that you asked me how I was. It's hard to reconcile the person you are now with the one that attacked me. But then again, I guess that was Raziel and not you at all. Valerius stiffened. Everything that Caden had said was true, but to have lost control to his spirit was only something that young shifters did, not someone of his years. It had been countless millennia since that had happened to him. He had not thought it possible for Raziel to truly take over. But he had been wrong. It was unnerving on so many levels. You are correct. I did not wish to attack you. Raziel, however, senses something about you that disturbs it, Valerius explained. Do you know what that is? Caden lingered on the steps below him, looking thoughtful. Well, it can't be something about me. I'm normal. So it has to be something about the spirit in me, I guess. You are not normal, Caden. Not even before you merged with the spirit. Normal people do not become shifters, Valerius informed him in no uncertain terms. There's nothing about me that should make your spirit afraid or unhappy or suspicious or whatever it is then, Caden retorted as he thumped his chest. I live at home with my parents. I work at a souvenir store because I can't get a job doing anything else. I don't even know what I want to do with myself long term. And yes, I'm happy. Actually, I was really happy with where I was. Yet you were willing to give your life for others. You did it without a second thought. If you had not acted, do you know how many would have died in the square today? Valerius pointed out. The square had been packed. He could almost imagine the broken bodies, bones sticking through flesh, blood everywhere. He'd seen it before. The horrors of death had been his stock and trade long, long ago. His words caused the young man to shuffle uncertainly. It would have been bad. I know that. But I just did what anyone else... No, Valerius said with a shake of his head. I assure you that you did not do what others would have done. You did something extraordinary. I hope you are enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. Dragon's Reign wasn't the first dragon shifter story I wrote. Draken was. Draken is very different than Dragon's Reign, where shifters are out of the closet, so to speak. In Draken, things are very much hidden, and the world it's set in is our own. Here's the blurb for Draken. Poor student Sebastian grew up having a crush on his older, rich neighbor, Fallon. When the handsome man starts courting him, Sebastian can hardly believe it, but their developing love is threatened by Fallon's family's deep secret. They're all immortal dragon shifters. If you want to check out Draken, the first 5 chapters are free to read. A link in the description is down below. So, Caden looked up at him curiously. Did you save people? Is that how you got your spirit? Valerius, almost physically, held the moment away of how he had gained Raziel. All he said was a cold, no. Caden, though, did not seem to hear that coldness. But Shioni said that the spirit chose me because I acted bravely and nobly and that kind of stuff. You did too. I get that sacrificing yourself for others is that, but I honestly didn't think I would survive anyways. So it was either my life that was lost or my life and a heck of a lot of other people's too. The math seemed to work out better if it was just me dying. Shioni believes what she wishes to believe, but I can assure you that neither myself nor any of the other dragon shifters became what we are because of such a brave or noble sacrifice, Valerius told him. Caden opened his mouth, clearly wanting to ask more about this, but Valerius was done speaking on the matter. The Dragon King turned on his heel and proceeded up the stairs at such a quick pace that Caden would be too busy trying to breathe to catch up to ask questions. A few more flights up and they reached the base of his tower. Valerius opened the doors slightly and glanced around. No one was there. He let out a breath of relief. Are we there yet? Caden whispered. Valerius whipped around as he felt Caden's hot breath against the side of his neck. The young man was close enough that he could smell Caden's sweetness. No bitter scent of fear any longer, and the playful smile on his lips showed that. Not afraid of me any longer, Caden? Valerius's left eyebrow raised. Caden's eyes widened for a moment, but then he shook his head. No, I don't think I am. You should rethink that, Valerius replied stonily, which had those innocent eyes going even wider. He turned away before he saw if the young man's smile grew or died. Valerius stepped out into the foyer. The double doors to his rooms were at the far end of the circular space. The ceiling was 30 feet over their heads. A massive iron chandelier cast a golden light over the rich floor coverings that covered the white stone floor. Tapestries of dragons flying covered the walls. The scent of wax and wool and stone filled his nostrils. His eyelids fluttered shut for a moment, and he breathed in these familiar scents of home. King Valerius! President Goodfellow's voice rose up behind them. Valerius's eyelids flew open, and he froze in place. How had he missed her presence? Where had she been hiding? And where was her security detail? She was quite alone. He did not keep any guards himself near his chambers. He wanted his privacy, and few things could kill a dragon shifter anyways, Certainly not some measly humans. What do we say? Or should we just run? Caden asked him. Valerius looked down at Caden's face, but couldn't tell if the young man was being serious or not. You want to run from the President of the United States. Hey, she only knows who you are, not me, Caden said with what looked suspiciously like a smile on his face. But there was fear in those eyes too. And I think we could outrun her, especially in those heels. You are... Valerius could not complete that sentence. There were too many words that wanted to spill out. Finally, he just said, you are ridiculous. No, I don't think so, especially if you look into her eyes. She's intense, Caden said. She's one of the leaders of the free world, he reminded the young man. And you're the leader of everybody, right? So make her go away, Caden hissed. With a frown, Valerius spun around to face President Goodfellow. Madam President, why are you haunting the foyer of my quarters? But she wasn't looking at him. Her gaze was locked on Caden. Her lips were slightly parted. Is this? She swallowed. Her voice was almost a whisper. Is this? Caden started to back up towards the double doors away from her. Alarm was written large on his beautiful face. Valerius was surprised that he found himself moved to defend the young man. I'm afraid, Madam President, that I do not discuss my friends with others. Not even you. I have no time to speak at the moment. I will see you at the feast later tonight. Then we will talk, Valerius said. He turned from her, but she grabbed his arm, much as he had with Caden in the garage. He stiffened in annoyance and almost wrenched his arm from her grip, but he remembered at the last moment that he must be gentlemanlike at all times. Otherwise, humans thought of him as a beast. He already had given them plenty of reasons to think that this day. But Valerius, we must talk now. I do not think that you would like to publicly discuss the deaths of some of our citizens caused by... Her voice dropped off. She clearly was not willing to say that he was the cause of those deaths. We can hardly talk of important things among the other guests tonight. So I really do insist on speaking to you now, and I must know if this is... Her gaze darted towards Caden once more. The young man had already made his way over to the doors to Valerius's suite and was blindly twisting the knobs behind his back. Is this the 9th dragon shifter? Madam President, you may need to be privy to many things, but who is and isn't a shifter is not one of them, especially when it comes to dragon shifters. These things are beyond you, he said coldly and removed her hand from his arm. Shifter matters are handled entirely by me, especially this one. If you wish to assist, then you should turn your attention to humans first and the bomb incident today. Is that who set the bomb? She asked, her gaze darted between him and Caden again. Do you have any proof about who exactly was behind it? Humans First has sleeper cells. We don't know who their leadership is. The people we found are all ignorant of anything but their own orders. I'm not sure, Caden began, but then he swallowed and added, We're not sure who did it. But you were right there, she said to him. You took the bomb out of the square and Caden's eyes were huge. Panic was written in them, and Valerius felt the need to step in for more reasons than to keep the president in the dark. He stepped between them, completely blocking her view of Caden. Again, Madam President, when I have time to speak with you, I will. But that time is not now. Valerius turned on his heel once more, grabbed Caden by the wrist, and hustled the two of them inside of his chambers. He shut the doors firmly behind them. I hope you enjoyed this week's chapter. If you want to read ahead in Dragon's Reign or read the many other stories hosted there, you can purchase a membership to get access to wraithrain.com, or you can continue to listen along here for free. If you'd like to learn more about wraithrain.com and me, there's a link in the description down below.